This content is brought to you by VeChain, which is a leading enterprise-grade Layer 1 public blockchain spearheading a digital revolution from a sustainable, highly scalable smart contract platform. The VeChain blockchain has many unique features, which makes it an ideal choice for Web3 applications. VeChain is working with many great enterprises such as PwC, Givenchy, BMW, and Walmart China. Most recently, they partnered with the Boston Consulting Group to build a revolutionary decentralized application ecosystem. I'm a big believer in this project. I have been since 2018. I've been a VET token holder for years. And this blockchain is highly scalable, great with security and speed, and it has low energy consumption. If you'd like to learn more about VeChain, please visit vchain.org. Link will be in the description. Hey everybody, Tony here. I'm at the DC Blockchain Summit, and with me is Ren McEachran, who is the CEO of Fraud Optics Incorporated. Ren, great to have you on.
Yeah, thanks, Tony. Appreciate the opportunity. You've seen me a lot in your podcast, and I'm a big fan, so thanks again for bringing me in.
Yeah, Ren, excited to talk to you, given your background. Tell us about yourself and Fraud Optics.
Yeah, so born and raised Boston, go Boston Bruins, of course. But I've been in DC for 12 years. I was in the FBI for 12 years prior to jumping into the private sector. In those 5 years, which is relevant to what I'm going to talk about with Fraud Optics, the last 5 years, I focused on international money flows around the world, around corruption, around banking, chasing the money, chasing the bad guys, and understanding where fraud exists, where illicit activity exists. Then work closely with the DOJ and SEC on enforcement and compliance of companies in that space under the Foreign Practices Act, international corruption, and those kind of violations that go with that. So in that essence, understanding international money flows and how money works was a very sensible transition to understanding blockchain and how cryptocurrency flows through.
Sure.
And so that really piqued my interest when I was coming out of the bureaus, what was next. And so in that sense, the FBI was a great, as you can imagine, education and understanding of both enforcement and understanding compliance, because we would actually investigate companies and individuals in those enforcement matters.
Wow. Now, when you were at the Bureau, is there like a division for digital assets in crypto yet? Or, was things starting to ramp up?
Slowly. Now there is a virtual asset unit, VAU, which supports different initiatives within the Bureau. And as you can imagine, they've got a full caseload and then some. Sure. But, very important group, and they have amazing folks, amazing tools. And obviously the work is going to continue to be more and more high volume for them. And of course, they have to work with their partners around the different agencies, the intelligence community, because you have criminal issues and you have national security issues, all affecting crypto. And so it's one of those areas and specialties that goes across all areas when you think about from a national security or, federal law enforcement area. It's a growing area of concern, but also an opportunity.
Now, blockchain, it's verifiable, it's transparent. There's many companies looking at or tracking data and analytics. It's all there, right? So does it make it easy for law enforcement and the Bureau and these folks to do their jobs versus the traditional cash or other types of assets?
Great question. The old way we would do it, chasing money flows, is we would have to find the money, go to the bank, corresponding banking relationships, getting bank subpoenas, and going through all the debits and credits. But with the blockchain, it's beautiful from a forensic accounting standpoint. I work a lot of forensic accounts. We always deploy those looking at the money flows. The blockchain is brilliant. It's transparent. You see the flows. You see the amounts. You see the wallets and the entities. However, the problem then becomes, the people behind what we call ultimate beneficial ownership of those wallets, right? And so if I'm chasing money in the old days around the world and I see money go to a bank account, I subpoena the bank and I understand the KYC, know your customer, the AML questions they may have asked, suspicious activity reports that may have been filed. But if I come in my investigation upon a wallet that is clearly holding crypto as opposed to as a fraud scheme,
sure,
there's no place to subpoena, right? There's no place to do a search warrant. of course, if it's at an exchange, that's one thing. There's an opportunity for information requests.
Right.
But as you know, the issue is these wallets, these private wallets that we that really have a tough time.
Hard question for you, because a lot of this is being figured out by the government, right? And how we're going to regulate all these things. On one hand, I see the benefits of someone having their own private wallet and so on and so forth. So how do we find that balance? And this is a tough question I'm throwing at you.
Yeah, and as you know, there's, I don't know, 5 bills now kicking around the hill on this issue. And a lot of people that are attracted to blockchain and cryptocurrency like the decentralized nature of it. And I understand that from a privacy standpoint.
Right.
The tricky part will there's going to be some sort of negotiation on a little bit coming, you're giving us little and then taking little so that people are comfortable. Yeah, this feels like cryptocurrency. I'm not saying it's a stable coin exactly, but
sure,
whatever that middle ground is, you see them debating this actively on the Hill. But as you know, we need the regulation.
Yeah.
Because what we can't have is all the innovation and great people leaving the country, going over to the EU that now has MiCA and other things, right?
Right.
And so it's critical that we get legislation and regulatory oversight. We want to innovate.
Yeah.
We want to take the technology further. We do not want to hold back on that. But what is the middle ground? Very, very tricky.
Yeah, I've been saying that lately, that I think we're going to have to meet in the middle of the road with the regulators at some point. The devil's in the details, so we'll have to figure out, hey, don't kill the innovation, don't kill the ability for me to self-custody, but okay, you want me to report it on to the IRS or whatever, something, right? I don't know what the answer is, but I think we'll have to find that middle ground, because it's going to be tough. And look, bad actors are out there who are going to try to take advantage of the technology and do bad things. Now, fraud optics. Tell us about who you work with and some of the crypto related.
Sure. And let me back up one more step.
Sure.
After the Bureau, I actually went to a company called Exeger, which is a governance and risk firm that actually had a very significant AI tool. We were looking at big data problems, open source around risk mitigation. And so in that instance, I was learning about how we use AI to collect large data, boil it down for risk mitigation purposes to help banks, third-party risk people, corporates. And so that model, I learned about unstructured, structured data sets and how to think really smart about that, to be proactive around illicit activity. And so when we started Fraud Optics, it actually came out of a case I was working when I came out of the Bureau, and which involved looking at off-chain data on a major blockchain fraud case. And we were so successful, we actually referred the case to the FBI, SEC, DOJ. That person was located on a red notice, and they were arrested overseas and brought back. And what we did is we went back and said, that's very rare in the world of crypto fraud or crypto illicit activity, right?
Sure.
We said, what made the difference in that case? And we began to look at, of course, we did some tracing, critical to all of this. But we actually was about the off-chain data that we began to look at around the wallet activities. Okay, this wallet is connected to what else? Where do we look off-chain? Because so much, as you know, innovation and investment is around the blockchain, the cross-chain understanding. People had forgot this really beautiful enhanced data on off-chain supporting blockchain investigations and risk appetite and risk indicators and behaviors. And so we saw this opening and said, wait a minute, why can't we start to look at this as an area for as both preventative and also to understand for investigations?
Are you able to, by any chance, disclose the name of that case or what it was?
I can't right now. It's not have been adjudicated yet.
Okay.
But it's a great example of, again, using blockchain technologies, which is critical to understanding the crypto flows.
Sure.
And then re-engineering that on the off-chain side to say, okay, is there a Twitter handle involved? Are there NFTs involved? Right. Are there other behaviors this guy, this fraudster, was using that we can look at whether it could be a myriad of things to include IP addresses, geolocation. Start thinking about where can we find this person? And if you think about, and these are areas that we collect data on, IP, Web3, social, all sorts of block aggregators, right?
Sure.
And so we bring that data together to say, what is the profile of this person potential on this profile? And that's how we do them.
Yeah, it's fascinating, and I'm sure it's opening up a ton of cans of worms, right? Of like people trying to do different things with this technology to do bad activities. Um, so is your service essentially, are you like working with government agencies like the SEC can call you up, or the DOJ, things like that?
So we serve commercial and public sector clients, and we actually deliver as a product via API. So our data, they can make calls on our data. It integrates with whatever platform they're using. If it's an investigations platform, if it's a compliance risk platform, if it's a transactional monitoring platform, our data comes in. And most of the time, they're looking at the transactions on the blockchain, and we're saying, wait a minute, guys, let's bring in this other subset of data that's really helpful to understand the holistic activities. And so that's the area that's the gap that we've identified. We think there's nobody better than us doing that. But we also think about adoption, like a corporate, multinational corporations taking on transactional activity. Think of a big retailer saying, hey, we don't want to miss out on the demographic. We want to start accepting crypto, but we also want to protect our clients, our consumers, right? And so we offer another level of protection saying, yes, blockchain, understand it, of course, critical, but also understand what are we looking at from a fraud standpoint? What do we also know about that before you transact? And on a screening purpose, how do we help prevent the fraud? Because as you know, once the fraudsters are able to get those transfers into those wallets, very difficult, as I mentioned earlier, even for law enforcement, search warrants and subpoena power, it's still incredibly difficult to actually what we call pull that back or disgorge that from the illicit purposes of the fraud.
Now, as the crypto asset class has been growing, adoption of technology, have you seen a ramp up in bad activity, illegal activity?
Great question. So 2023 was a little bit down on illicit activity from 2022 based on a few numbers. But what I can tell you is there's a tsunami of fraud coming, and this is why. January 10th, spot Bitcoin ETF gets approved, right? So who didn't want to miss out? Fraudsters didn't want to miss out. And then people that weren't thinking about buying ETFs, but were told, hey, you're not going to miss out on the Bitcoin ETF. Oh, no, I don't want to miss out on that. So what we've seen now in the last six weeks, because it takes a few months for fraud to be determined and identified, is that we're getting calls and emails and people reaching out at a very substantial increase because we're seeing this wave, right, of more fraud. And a lot of these, unfortunately, come through dating apps is a big way they get in. They move through WhatsApp. I would say 80% of the frauds that come into us are coming in through dating apps.
Wow.
They quickly move them to WhatsApp or Telegram, and then they take the conversation from there.
Wow.
And so we have also some proactive ways to cover what is occurring today as frauds, because there's a lot of interesting data going back and forth. So we're also on the cutting edge of saying, wait, this fraud is occurring right now with these actors, with these URLs and these names and these domains and these wallets. Cutting edge, right? Oh, we should probably do an alert for our clients on that stuff, right? To take it out of their ecosystem. But I do, like, we want to take those bad guys out of the equation, right? And we want to be an answer to mitigate those risks. But I can tell you, 2024 is an amazing year, obviously, as we know, for cryptocurrency. And it's just beginning, right? We know 24, 25, it's going, right? But we also, unfortunately, know what comes with that, right? High tide also raises the fraud boats, right? Unfortunately, right? Yeah.
Great point. And we want to protect people out there because there's a lot of folks who don't fully understand this technology and how it works. They're seeing, news about it, and then some guy comes on a dating app or whatever it is, or some girl, and try to scam them. We don't want that happening. So I certainly appreciate services like yours, because if we don't, stop these things, it tarnishes the reputation of the technology in the industry.
We see ourselves as a serious company with serious people, taking on this problem, and that also helps for greater adoption, greater trust, greater comfort. If it's going to go the way it needs to go, we need good companies also coming in to do the policing of, wait a minute, who is this guy? Who are these people? Who is this entity? Who is this wallet? What do we know? How do we protect our really valuable customers?
Right.
And once we're able to do that better and better, and it's gonna with technology, we are getting better. We're using AI to make relationships and connect those nodes. You're going to see better adoption once the trust goes up, and you see the fraud go down.
Now, question for you, and I don't know if this is off base or something you can speak to, but over the years, there's been talks. I remember Kevin O'Leary saying things like, corporations and institutions are going to want to know where the Bitcoin or the Ethereum came from. Was it used by a bad actor in another country? Are you getting that sense from corporations where they want to know, hey, we're going to transact in Bitcoin, but we want to know where that Bitcoin, where in its life cycle, did it go through some terrorist hands or something like that?
So there's different levels of companies with different types of cultures, right? So some companies want to know everything.
Sure.
Because their reputation it means so much. They already have a massive client base, and they want to make sure they're protecting that and protecting the reputation of their company. Sometimes, not all the times, younger companies, where they're hungry, they'll do whatever they can get to grow their market base or grab that market share.
Sure.
They care less and have less money and resources to spend on compliance. But the best companies that we know who care really do want to truly avoid that. So they do want to understand the origins of those dollars, of those stable coins, of whatever tokens those are, as best they can, to a point where it's defensible. To say, look, we did the best we could to screen that.
Sure.
We take that seriously, whether it's human trafficking, all those areas that we were terrorist financing, all those things that you would never want to be associated with.
Right.
That can be terrible for reputational issues. Companies are smart about that, and they do want to screen against it, of course.
Oh, absolutely. I'm curious, given your experience and what you guys are doing, your thoughts on the crypto regulations that are currently in the works. You got the FIT bill vote coming up possibly next week or the week after. There's a couple bills in the Senate. Any thoughts on what's happening there?
Well, I think SOB 121 was really a shot across the bow. Right?
Yeah.
It really sent a message at a critical time in we're coming up in November, right? I think there's an election coming. I heard there's a rumor there's an election coming.
Yeah.
November, right? That had a lot of bipartisan support,
right.
And I'm really actually interested in the stablecoin recent legislation that came up 4 weeks ago. Again, bipartisan support, talking about banks taking custody, talking about AML, KYC. We need something because where the EU is ahead of us on this, that means they're going to be first on taking good companies, great technologists. We're going to be bleeding out all that talent to places where they feel safe so they can actually establish a company and not worry about enforcement by however the winds of change feel. Right. So we see it as critical. I don't know if it happens this year. My experience on the Hill is generally nothing happens a lot during the presidential election year. But there are some very strong supporters of it, high level people in the different chambers that want to make it happen. And it truly is becoming more of an election issue. I'm from Massachusetts. That's where I'm born and raised.
Yeah.
So I'm a little bit, I'm hyper aware of what's going on, right, in that race, right? Very interesting from the cryptocurrency standpoint. But, like any great technology, the market's going to be way ahead of the government on this. And you can't keep it down. You just got to find a way that it works for people where not everybody's being defrauded through these awful stories that I'm hearing every day from people that are losing a lot of money in their life savings and making bad decisions. We want to protect them.
Absolutely. Now, what's on your 2024 roadmap?
Yeah, so really right now, our clients are hearing and telling us, I should say, location, right? Are they transacting with wallets that may be in a sanctioned country?
Oh, wow.
Right? That's an important issue.
Sure.
Right? Are there clusterings of wallets that might show fraud or conspiracies or entities that are producing more fraudulent wallets, right? And so right now we're seeing IP addresses and geolocation is something that they're asking for and looking for more as another level to understand KYC or, okay, who are we really dealing with? Of course, there's issues with VPNs, right? But there's also VPN bleeds, right? So there's different areas of exposure there.
Right.
And of course, every time I talk to somebody in an exchange, a corporate, a bank, they bring up a new issue. Oh, that's interesting. some of that makes sense for us to maybe onboard that as a product offering. But we're also looking at all of that all the time. And then, of course, partnerships, but also watching legislation carefully. So more than anything for us, if the regulatory, is there some passage on regulatory oversight, it's going to require consumer protections, right? And we're at the forefront of that. We are very helpful from an AML KYC to make sure we get it right. And so we're obviously favorable, like everybody around here is for that. So we're hopeful.
What you guys are doing is certainly critical for further adoption of this technology. And, I'm excited to see the additional updates, and we'll probably have to have you on as things progress, as, the market rises. And like you said, the rising tide lifts even the fraud boats, right? So, but great speaking with you. And I love what you guys are doing.
Yeah. Thanks, Tony. Congrats on the book. Yeah. I'm a big fan. Love what you guys are doing. You're doing a great job educating on many levels, not just investing. Every little piece is so important. And you're getting the word out, I think, to the public is critical. So thanks, and looking forward to talking again soon.
Awesome. Thank you.
Cheers.